Welcome. You have reached review time with Imperial, and today's review will be 8-Bit Christmas. Let's get into it. So, Happy New Year. Just the first video of the new year. I'm a little late to the party on this video. With this movie review. But I figured I watched it. I must have just put it out there just because. But this is a decent film. It brings back, for 80s babies, it brings back a lot of nostalgia from that time frame, what a lot of us experienced during that time when the Nintendo came out. And let's just go over the cast real quick. You got Steve Zahn, plays as Jake Doyle, which is the father. Neil Patrick Harris, he plays as the adult version of Jake Doyle. June Diane Raphael plays as Kathy Doyle, which is the mom. David Cross plays as the dealer. Winslow Fagley, he's the main young character of the film. He plays as young Jake Doyle. Annie Doyle, that's the adult Jake Doyle's daughter. Then you have the cast of kids that plays on the movie. So it starts off with Neil Patrick Harris. So this is on HBO Max. So HBO Max is affiliation with Warner Brothers. So it seems like Neil Patrick Harris must has a deal with Warner Brothers, because this is another movie this season that he's playing on with Warner Brothers affiliation. So he plays as the adult version of Jake Doyle. He has a daughter, Annie Doyle, and they have a bonding time. And he pretty much he begins to tell. He goes over his mom's house, his parents' house rather, and he sees the old Nintendo there, and he begins to tell her story what that Nintendo meant to him when he was a child. And she pretty much, she want to get on. She thinks it's boring, but she sits there enough to let him start the story. And when he started the story, the more he told her the story, the more she became intrigued to hear what went on. And basically, it was around Christmas season when he was little. Those of us that know that the Nintendo, when it came out in the mid 80s, was a huge thing, and everybody wanted to have one. One of the cool moments is when he was telling her about what you had to do with the Nintendo, and it was like universal. It was just to see what he did. And I even asked somebody, those who's 80 babies, what did you do when what would you tell somebody the first thing they had to do when they grabbed the Nintendo cartridge? And everybody universally say the same thing. You take the cartridge and blow it before you put it into the game system. So when he did that, it was just traditional, that everybody knew to do that. Everybody had their own little tricks with the swabs and cleaning the alcohol inside the game with the swabs, or you put the game in at the edge of the console and slam it in. Man, everybody had so many tricks with the Nintendo. And the crazy thing is, back in them days, of course, pagers wasn't a thing, cell phones wasn't a thing, internet wasn't a thing back in that time. But people would find, they used to have these magazines, and they probably still do, but where they would put all the different tricks in every level of the game inside these magazines with secret codes and stuff. Once them codes, it was just universal. Word spread. One person heard it from that person, one person had it from that person. Somebody found out, went to school, told that person, it just spread. So that's how we found out the secret codes, just by word of mouth back in that time. So it was cool to see all that type stuff in there. But nevertheless, getting to the story, it's an era where he was little. Nintendo was a big thing. All the kids in the neighborhood wants to have the Nintendo. Only one kid in the neighborhood had the game. Was a rich kid named Timmy King, and his dad was a doctor. Mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she pretty much let him do whatever he wanted. And because he was the only kid in the neighborhood with the game, of course he was a brat, and he would let certain kids come in and play the game, but really watch him play the game rather. And it was just a lot of cool moments. And you got Jake Doyle, him and his crew and his list of friends was Mickey, Evan, Tammy, and Teddy, which were twins, and Jeff. Jeff Farmer. Now, Jeff Farmer, he's the friend. He's the comic relief friend where he's a pathological liar, and he, at a young age, he's always lying about something. But during the story, his lying ability came to help him. Nevertheless, they're all figuring out trying to get this Nintendo. None of them got it, and you get to meet Jake's mom and dad. His dad is like a carpenter, know how to build stuff, and they're hardworking family or whatever. One of the biggest things what they were saying about the Nintendo is that it stops kids from wanting to go out. Now, back in them days, even though people had the console, we still all went outside and did whatever. It's just that when we came in at night or whenever, we still would jump on a game. But it didn't stop us from going outside. But on this game, this movie, they kind of pushing that kids stopped going outside. They wasn't outside playing no more. They just wanted to play the game. More or less how kids are today. So, nevertheless, that what was going on. So, it's a lot of humorous moments. What ended up happening is the rich kid in one of the moments of the movie, the Power Glove came out for Nintendo. And those of us that knew that or witnessed how the Power Glove came out, and they did a movie on it, Wiz Kid back in the day with Fred Savage about that. That Power Glove was trash. Like, we all universally knew who witnessed it that Power Glove was trash, and then it pretty much in a movie it said that and that was cool too, that they pointed that out, that the Power Glove was trash, and he was using the Power Glove against one of the twins, Tammy Hodge, and she beat him because she had the joystick, he had the Power Glove, and so he got amped up, so upset, he karate kicked the TV and broke the TV, and the TV fell on the dog. So they said that is the energy that they're talking about, that why these games is bad for kids. And so it's just different moments throughout. And then they had a competition with the Boy Scouts, the Rangers, that if whoever sold the most Christmas wreaths, they win a Nintendo. Now, Jake found a way. His little sister, who was mischievous, she wanted a Cabbage Patch doll, which was popular for little girls during that time. She wanted a special Cabbage Patch doll, so she told him if she helped him get the Cabbage Patch doll, she would help him get the Nintendo. So she told him pretty much, like, you need to go and target the old folks. Go to the old folks home, because old folks, they support kids and stuff. And then at the old folks home, everybody need a wreath on their door, so that's perfect timing for them to buy. So that's what he took and did. So he ended up being the #1 seller, and he got an encyclopedia. So to say encyclopedia to today's generation, they be like, what is that? So before the internet and all that was so important, how people did papers and research and all that, they had to go into encyclopedias, and people had a whole encyclopedia from A to Z, and they had to research that way. And to think all that stuff that used to be in them books, they transferred and put it on the internet now, but that used to be a thing. And so he won an encyclopedia, so he was wondering, like, well, how come I didn't win a Nintendo? Because when Timmy Kane did that, they started protesting, saying the kids shouldn't have the game system, and Timmy King's dad, Dr. King, came in and pretty much told the group that they needed to ban the gaming system. And so that's why the Ranger squad, instead of giving out the Nintendo for the #1 prize, they gave out encyclopedias or whatever. So he was pissed. The end result is that pretty much the bonding time between him and his dad was a carpenter. His dad built him like a tree house. Basically, they called it a tree fort, but a tree house in the backyard. And the value of that all him and his friends will have their own cool location in the backyard, was like more better than having a Nintendo. And that's what really happened. Even though it was a moment where they sold some collecting cards, and they got the money, and they did buy a Nintendo. and it ended up he slipped in ice and the Nintendo flew in the street and it got ran over by a truck or whatever. So they did have one at one point, but nevertheless, he got the treehouse, and then the next year he worked and earned to buy himself a Nintendo. And then it showed in present day time. His dad had passed away. The mom was older. The sister, of course, she was adult now. She had her own child, and of course, he had his own child. So it ended cool. So overall, it was a decent film. Out of my 4-star rating system, 2.5 out of 4 stars. I'm late to the party on this review. Nevertheless, Happy New Year's to all. Subscribe and like the video. Until next time.